Alright, there we go. Now my mic's working. Okay. Mic is working. And so we're going to go over units 5 and 6 is what we're doing here. So there's 6 and here's 5. Here's 5. So this is going to go for roughly 2 hours here. So this is going to be the first hour, and this is all unit 5. Once you get to the end of the class, after you're done with unit 5, you can pause the video, and then you'll go about an hour in for tomorrow, because you're watching this on the 23rd, I think. Yeah, Tuesday the 23rd, something like that. So yeah, we can just kind of hop into it. So right now, I'm actually at band camp. I told you guys about that, kinda. Give me just 1 second. I think I'm having something with the stream. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully this all works, and it's just a video on YouTube. I sent you guys the link. So yeah, Unit 5, we're going to talk about training the team. So that's giving the kids freedom. You got to take some online courses if you want to, of course. If you want to really excel in your web design. You have the real-world experiences, practice range, YouTube and Google usage, and asking the right questions. So we just hop into it. So the reason we're not doing the WordPress stuff with our website, the reason we're not doing this is because I'm not sure how far we're going to get. So today's Wednesday, so the stream I'm doing later, so today is my Tuesday, which means it's going to be your guys' Wednesday here in about a couple hours, and we're going to stream then, or we're going to do a live session then. So I'm not sure how far we're going to get with the WordPress stuff. So that's why I'm kind of doing Unit 5 and 6 now, and then we're going to do WordPress stuff all the way through the end. So Unit 5 is training the team. Obviously, Unit 4 is the bigger one. That's our WordPress one. So it's going to feel a little shorter. We're going to get through the unit a day type thing. So that'll be all cool. I have to move this so I can see the timer so I know when to stop for you guys. Oh, man. Okay, here we go. Giving students freedom. So part of a teacher's job is to give the kids freedom, and this is called like classroom safety, sort of, but it's called psychological safety. We talked about that in our first class, and that's basically giving the students, making them feel comfortable enough to make their own decisions. So we have to, the creative freedom. So part of psychological safety is allowing for enough freedom so that the kids can kind of broaden their own creativity and curiosity. So if they want to try something, then even if you think it's a bad idea, maybe it'd still be best to try to include that in whatever solution it is that we're trying to solve, or just make them not feel dumb, basically. We need to make sure that all the students feel safe to give an opinion or ask a question, and that is a big issue in the United States, is we have a lot of not psychological safety involved teachers, and that basically means that teachers don't make us feel comfortable asking questions because they make us feel dumb. So that was obviously more for the teachers, but us as students, we need to be doing the exact same thing. So when a student gives, or when they ask a question, we can't try to say that we think that they're dumb or something. We can't, we have to realize that it's their honest effort, and they're doing everything that they can, and eventually come around to asking the question or saying an idea, and we as students have to include them in our solution, even if we might not think it's a good idea. I already said that. Even if we don't think it's a good idea, we have to include them because that gives them the freedom to kind of broaden their horizons, and it'll also generate even more creativity and more curiosity because we're promoting a good, psychologically safe environment for them. So part of this is we have to give the students some alone time. So in order for creativity to sprout, a good thing that they're going to need is some alone time so that they can think by themselves and they can generate their own creativity rather than using the internet for ideas. So an issue we've been having recently is the development of AI, and ChatGPT specifically really promotes against creativity because it just gives students answers, and even if we're like writing an essay or something, or we have to include ourselves through the internet in any way, we can just use ChatGPT and that'll do everything for us. And we need to think about that before we actually we need to think about that when we talk about creativity, because that is a big hindrance on creativity. And what can help that is if students kind of step away from the AI and get some alone time, and then they can start creating their own ideas and can start giving input on topics and ideas. So I kind of talked about criticizing. So criticizing is kind of when you're putting someone down, and instead of criticizing, what we want to do is offering helpful tips. So when we criticize, it makes somebody not want to speak up again, because if you have what you think is a good idea and somebody kind of makes fun of you for it, then you're not going to want to give any more input, and that is another hindrance on creativity. We need to really watch that, because if we hinder the creativity, then we're not going to get as many websites done, and our websites are all going to look the same because we all think that one idea is the best idea every time, and chances are that idea is going to be predominant in the rest of the business career that you're going to have through building websites. So that's why creativity also comes into play when we're talking about web design, is because we want all of our websites to be different. All websites look pretty different. I mean, you might find a few that look very similar, but almost all the websites look very different, and that's so that they can have their own look and feel. And that was all done by using creativity rather than just copying from another website. Because if we all just copy from another website, then we're all going to look the same. But there's a sense of originality that you want to have when you're coming up with creativity. And if we harshly criticize someone for their creativity, then they're not going to want to do it again, and they're going to think that creativity is bad. Because if the best idea was just a copy off another website, then why even have any creativity, right? But what we need to do is we need to be creative, and we need to not criticize, and we need to not use AI. Don't use ChatGPT, all that stuff. Unless it's helping you. There's only a few times in which it can help generate creativity. But I'm not going to go into that. But for right now, what we'll say is don't use AI, don't use ChatGPT. Try not to use any other websites. We talked about how we are allowed to use other websites previously. But yeah, so I think that's about it for this. And how to offer helpful tips. So I talked about how we shouldn't criticize, but instead give helpful tips. A way we can do helpful tips is, instead of seeming like we're better than them, we can try to improve their idea. So part of this is going to be like participating enthusiastically. So if we say, you know, it would be a better idea, we shouldn't do that, because then we're putting their idea down. if we say that's a dumb idea, that's putting their idea down. They're not going to want to have any ideas anymore. They're not going to have any creativity. And so what we can do instead is be like, oh, I like that idea. We should do this too. That's a better way of going about doing things, because you are including their idea. You're making them feel good about their idea too, and it's just going to help everybody in the situation, because if you're the person that does harshly criticize someone, the person who said it is probably going to remember that you were the one that said that, and it's kind of messed up. So they're going to remember that you were the one that harshly criticized them for their creativity, and they're not going to want to share creativity again in the same class as you. And when we're in a business class, it's very important that we all kind of come together and work on the same projects together and don't get in each other's ways, and just promote this sense of psychological safety. And we as students can do that as well as teachers. A big issue that I've seen in new students is staying on topic. So you guys all know that I have a pretty big issue with staying on topic, and I mean, that's my fault, but that's just how it is. So how I like to we say lock in, and I'm sure you guys have heard that term. It's basically just getting focused. So how to get focused? What we really need to do is eliminate all surrounding disturbances. So for some people, what helps is music, but for others, music also doesn't help. So what I would recommend is using headphones. If you guys are allowed to, I would use headphones if it does help you. If you see that it doesn't help you, then I wouldn't play music anymore and just kind of be quiet and just focus in on your work. So something that happens a lot is student chatter gets us off topic, because what happens is it's kind of like a disease. It'll start with one student and then it'll kind of spread throughout the classroom, and everyone thinks it's okay to talk then because somebody else talked. Or if somebody says something funny, then we're getting off topic again. However, we did talk about in the first class that it's okay to have some fun, and it is okay to have some fun, but this is kind of the opposite side of it, on that we should still be staying on topic when we're not having fun, and this should be about 80% of the time, whereas having fun maybe 20% of the time. Like time dedicated to having fun. You should, hopefully you're always having fun while you're building websites. I do anyway. So that's kind of how to lock in, is eliminate other disturbances. I said that student chatter often gets us, and I'm sure most of us don't usually start it, but if we do start it, we have to eliminate that, because most of us don't start it. There's always just one person, one or two people that start it, and then it just spreads throughout the entire classroom, and we need to kind of eliminate that. And that's basically it I have on locking in. So use stress. Is stress that is good for you. So when we stay on topic, we are doing a lot of work. We're getting a lot of work done. And part of this, you're going to feel a little bit of stress. And that's okay. That's called eustress. That's good stress. We talked about this in the first class. It's just good stress. It's stress that is good for you, and it'll build up your character, and you'll be able to handle more and more stress then when you're doing more and more eustress. So staying on topic doesn't involve a lot of eustress, but when we lock in, we just do a lot of work at the same time without really realizing it. But if we do realize it, we kind of get stressed out. That's when we can say to ourselves, it's just eustress. This is good for me. And then I'd take a breather, take a breath, and just think to yourself that this is good for you, because it is. The more and more you get familiar with building websites, the easier and easier it'll become. Like we set all this up in an hour, but like for me, I've been building websites for a long time. I could probably do all this in about like 5 to 10 minutes maybe. but that's just the power of becoming more and more comfortable with eustress and all that stuff. So, do we always have to stay on topic? I kind of already talked about this. Not necessarily. You often find yourselves kind of going down a rabbit hole, which is it's fairly common. You almost see it in all your classrooms when you start on a topic and then it kind of not fades away into something else, but we kind of get distracted and start not being able to work on the lesson at hand. So even at the beginning of this live stream, I was talking about band camp. Like, that has nothing to do with this. I was off topic there, but most of the class I try to stay on topic, and part of doing that is eliminating the distractions around me. So I don't play my guitar while we're doing our lessons. I don't listen to any music. I have my noise canceling headphones on. That's part of how I lock in, is getting really focused, and designating time to doing something is how I get focused. I have a set period where I'm allowed to do work, and I have to get work done during that period, and then afterwards I can take a break. I can go get a snack. I can do whatever. But part of always staying on topic, you don't have to do this when you're having fun. Again, that should be about 20% of the time is having fun, and then the other 80 is like actually doing work and building the websites. Sorry, I have a really dry throat right now, and it's allergy season over here. And then a cool thing to do is, if you go down a rabbit hole, is finding your way back home. So this will kind of spark. It won't really spark anything, but it'll kind of see how your brain works. And we talked about the creativity, and just back here, we talked about creativity, and part of knowing how to be creative is knowing how your brain works. So if we don't know how our brain works, then we're going to have kind of a hard time coming up with ideas, because we can't. When we generate new ideas, usually they're kind of copies of other ideas we've had, or at least modifications. So if you think of what you've already thought before, just go down that rabbit hole and try to find some more ideas along those lines. So when you go down one of those rabbit holes, so I'll set up a little scenario here. So my teacher is Mr. Suter. So what happens in class sometimes is he'll go up in front of the class and he'll start talking about business and stuff, and what we need to do with a certain client, stuff like that. And what tends to happen is we find ourselves talking about like something crazy. For example, we can I don't know, but we just go down these rabbit holes, and it leads us to absolutely nowhere. We can be talking about the craziest thing that just has nothing to do with business or anything about websites. But what you can do is you can do this thing that's called finding your way back home. This was kind of invented by Mr. Suter. What you do is, so we go down the rabbit hole, right? We end up at whatever wild topic it is that we're on. And then what you do is you try to think back the steps of how you ended up getting there. And what this makes us all realize is how much our brains are thinking when we're having fun. So we have fun getting distracted. It's kind of a thing that humans do. We enjoy taking our minds off things, and again, just getting distracted. We have a lot of fun doing that and talking about the things we enjoy. So you can think back and you can think of all the weird ideas you had and what stimulated your brain to think a certain way. It's all really interesting stuff. So next time, if you're in a class and you guys get distracted, or you go down one of the rabbit holes, think back on how you ended up getting there. So I really don't have a scenario, because I try not to think about it too much, because I start overthinking then, and then it becomes crazy. But yeah, so staying on topic is very important when building a website because you often have really big clients. So there are clients that are gonna want. So we talked about how we have just we have 3 total pages, but for a lot of websites they're gonna want more than 3 pages. We've had some that are going up in the 20s, and that's that's a lot of pages because it takes a while to do a page, admittedly, but like you're gonna have these big clients, and if you keep getting distracted or going down rabbit holes, you're gonna start struggling to finish the clients. And when you finish to struggle to, or when you struggle to finish the clients, um, you start having less and less clients because the clients are sort of your advertisers. They tell their friends, hey, this company did not do a good job, don't go there. For example, I just went to a Mexican restaurant last night, yesterday afternoon, and it was really bad. It sucked. And I went with my girlfriend, and I went back and told my family, like, hey, this Mexican place sucked. We're never going here. Just right there, they lost my mom as a customer, my dad as a customer, and then my sister. They lost all of those potential customers, or it could be clients in our situation. But my mom can go and tell her friends that, oh, my son said the restaurant was terrible. I wouldn't eat there. My dad goes and tells his work buddies, like, don't eat there. My son said it kind of sucked. But that's something we have to think about as distributors of products. We have to think about how our client is going to view this interaction. So, how in my scenario right here with you guys, I'm thinking about how I would like to receive information and also what I can provide. So I can only provide so much knowledge because I only know so much, and it's the same with any other teacher. All teachers know up to a certain extent, but I know a lot about this subject. However, I don't know everything. Like, nobody's gonna know everything about a certain subject. They can know a lot, but there's gonna be you hear that you learn something new every day from the old people. The old people saying you learn something new every day. But it's honestly true, and that's because you don't know everything, and that's understanding that also helps with the creative freedom and psychological safety. But see, I think that was even a rabbit hole. We kind of went down a rabbit hole there, but we need to stay on topic because if we don't, then other people will talk bad about us because we took forever to get their website. But if we do it in a timely fashion and we stay on topic and we stay locked in, then we're going to succeed in our business, and we're probably going to get a lot more clients if we do things quickly. Especially since the quicker we do things, the more free time we have to accept new clients. And speaking of free time, there's things called online courses. So, online courses are pretty self-explanatory. They're just like classes you take online without having to do in-person things. So, I've told you guys about how I have my drone license, right? I have an FAA certified drone license, and what I did for this to get this, it was one giant, I think it was a 100-question test, and I needed at least an 80% to pass. But the only problem is that this information isn't really available to the public. Like, sure, there's practice tests, but everything you would need to learn on your own, unless you were to do like an online course. So I'm taking my hat off here for a second. Ugh, I'm sure my hair looks terrible, but that's okay. But online, I took an online course because I wasn't comfortable learning everything on my own, and you guys are doing something similar. You're taking this course right now because it's hard to find all this knowledge and someone who's willing to provide it, as well as a reliable source and a cheap price, I guess. I mean, I'm not sure how much you guys pay because this is all through the school, But everything comes with a benefit, and online courses give you a lot of knowledge about something you didn't know previously. So with online courses, some courses are going to have things called certificates. So these certificates are required. So if we're taking an online course, we need to find one that has a certificate. So I talked about last class, we talked about LinkedIn and how to manage your LinkedIn profile and how to make it I guess better than everyone else's. One thing that you can really do is talk about the certificates you have and the certifications. So, for example, my dad, he hardly went to college, and what he did was he did a bunch of online courses and paid money for these online courses, and ended up getting these certificates that ended up getting him a really good job. And he did all this without going to college for like 4 or 8 years, and so that just shows the power of a certificate. And people on LinkedIn really look for the certificates, and it also proves that you know something officially. So if I take a class, Google has some, and they I think they cost money, but they come with certificates. Almost any course you find that has a certificate is going to cost a little bit of money, but that's just a trade you have to make. So I believe there is a Google course on web design. So if you were to take this course on web design and put it on your LinkedIn profile, it proves that you know web design and that you're good at web design too, because you learned it all through Google. So a lot of these high establishment places will have online courses. If it's kind of like a low level establishment, like not many people have heard of them, then I wouldn't take the course, especially if it costs money, because you're going to get the certificate, but it might not prove that much because it was just through some company that randomly decided to do it. However, what I would recommend is take an online course through, there's a couple of popular websites. So if you search best online course websites, there's a lot there, and they kind of filter out all the bad ones. And most of the ones you see on there are going to be through USA colleges, or it could even be international colleges, I'm not sure. But there's a lot of USA colleges where teachers will publish their courses online because they're already doing it for school. So they just publish it online and try to make some money off of them. So that being said, what do we do if it does cost money and we don't know if we should pay for it or not? What most courses will do is they'll have like a why should you take this type section, and that's going to be good, and you should definitely look at that before you pay for it so you know what all you're getting. You also want to see how long the course is for the amount of money you're paying. So like if we're paying like $100 for 1 hour worth of work, that might not be the best investment. But it just depends on the course you're taking and what all you're learning. So like the web development on Google one, I would say that any amount of money you would pay for that would be good, because it's a high level establishment, a lot of employees, like internationally known throughout the entire world. It's a good course. Yes, it costs money, but it does come with a certificate, and then you can put it on your LinkedIn, and then you look really good on LinkedIn. And in a job interview, you can say that you have this certification, and people that are looking for new hires really like future employees with certifications in specific regions. So as a doctor, what you can do is you can kind of become a specialist, right? Not in quotes. It's a specialist. You can become a specialist in something, and what these courses kind of do is give you like this I totally lost my words. Kind of give you this speciality of knowing something specifically. So when you take a Google course on web design, you show that you know web design, and you have proof for it because you have the online certificate or the certification, and that just looks really good. So that's kind of finding the bang for your buck. That's just saying, like, if it's a really long class that you can get for cheap and it's something that you're interested in or something that will benefit your career, then I would recommend taking it. If it's expensive and so long course, then you kind of want to look into it, see what all it involves, see kind of like the level of recognition it has, as well as how much it'll actually teach you, and maybe ask a knowledgeable individual on if this would actually help you in your career. So if you were to go to a job interview and say you have a certification in this, is it going to look good, or is it just going to be kind of like a brush off type thing? And how to find free ones. Very simple. Just Google free online courses in blank. So I can type in, I doubt you guys can see this, especially because of my face right here. Sorry about that. Free online courses in tech, or let's do web design. I just searched that. You have these two sponsored ones. These are the two most famous ones. Is Coursera and Skillshare. You even have an Elementor one here. Look at that. And Codecademy. That's a very popular coding one. So it looks like Coursera is going to have some good ones. So let's visit Coursera and see their free. Let's see what they have for free web design. We're just kind of exploring here. Free web design. So this is Johns Hopkins University, so that's a U.S. college. You have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for web developers. So if you're I even had a question. Someone reached out to me and said that they wanted to learn this stuff. And this is for web development, and it's all kinds of coding. So if you're into coding and web development, then this course is perfect for you. So we can look at this here. It's free. You can enroll for free, and it starts July 16th, and that's today. So you would start it today. You can see it has 1 million users. So 1 million people have taken this. You can see skills you'll gain: HTML, JavaScript, CSS frameworks, CSS, shareable certificate that you can add into your LinkedIn. There's 12 quizzes, and then you can even see it. It shows you all this cool stuff. And yeah, here's just a whole bunch of stuff you're gonna learn, and that you'll get. It said this is a 1 month module, so there's one module in this course, so it takes about 8 hours to complete. There's 16 videos, 8 readings, 12 quizzes. Like, you can find all this stuff, and you can see it took me just like 2 minutes just doing a quick Google search and trying to find free web development classes. I mean, that wasn't necessarily web development, but you can even see here Coursera Project Network, building a full website using WordPress. What are we doing right now? Exactly. However, the ones that are going to cost money are probably going to be higher quality. So that's why I would recommend paying for one. And so we, through Grit 9, have this thing called a passion project. So with our passion project, Mr. Suter gives us $200 of our company money, and if we choose to use it, we put the $200 towards something we want to learn new. So I'm not sure the conversion to your guys' money, but we get a lot of money, and we're allowed to put this money wherever we want regarding our education, what we want to learn, and what's going to be beneficial for our career. So what most students do with their passion project money is find a course that maybe it costs like half the amount, so like $100 or $150, and it's going to be a really nice course, and they're going to take the course, and it's going to really help them in the future when they go on past college or high school, and they're trying to find a job that offers what they want to do with life. So that's part of our passion project. I think that's everything on online courses. Highly recommend Coursera and Skillshare was that other one we saw. Those are all very good ones, as well as Google. So we can search here Google certification courses. You can see it's the second one there. So you scroll down, online courses with certificates. Google Career certificates cost $50 a month. So, $50 a month. Interesting. But, sorry, I'll zoom in for you guys here. You have cybersecurity, data analytics, digital marketing, and e-commerce. So that's like kind of what we're doing right now. So that's awesome. UX design. So I believe that's phone design. You have project management, and it's a bunch of cool stuff. It looks like there's only like 6 here that they offer, but if we go here, we can do learn more with this. Connecting with people online, building an online presence is this digital marketing stuff. And it's even through Coursera, look at that. So, yeah, so these are awesome. Oh, it's not $50 a month, so it's $50 value. And you can see here, it gives you the average salary, or the median salary anyway, and that's 0 to 5 years experience, and you have 132,000 open jobs in digital marketing. So any course you go to is going to have very similar data and sort of advertisements for their own course, and that's just because they're trying to show you how much bang you can get for your buck. And it'll take a little bit of searching. So the first one you find might be the one you end up doing, but I would recommend at least getting like 2 or 3 other options, and just kind of comparing the benefits to each one. So another part of training the team is doing real world experience. So I've kind of made this clear about how real world experience is very beneficial. That's what we as students are trying to get when building websites and doing this student class through business, is we're trying to get some real world experience. So we kind of know how it is outside of school when we get into the real world, because the more I've had real world experiences, the more I've realized how school doesn't provide that. They don't provide real world experience, but with this class that'll allow you to do web design online, it'll give you a lot of real world experience. So what you want to do when you have a new team is you want to test it out a little, because everyone's going to be new to this, and everyone's going to need some training, obviously. So testing it out a little, so give them some real world experience. So when I say a little bit of real world experience, I mean that they should help out or work alongside someone as they are doing a real world experience, and somebody that's knowledgeable and somebody that's comfortable doing these things already. So for example, at a restaurant, or really just anywhere, anytime you kind of have to train a new person, you get somebody dedicated to help guide you into getting comfortable with the workspace and know how to do the new job you have. And that's pretty much what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to show the students, the new students anyway, how to become comfortable building a website, as well as getting them comfortable with real world experiences, because students are really unfamiliar with real world experience, because most of the time we're trying to stay in school and we're trying to learn things that'll benefit us in the future once we're adults. So when you test it out a little, just have somebody maybe observe you building a website. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to promote this last kind of half of the class. So we did WordPress yesterday, or website building yesterday, so I'm kind of trying to give you guys a taste of real world experience, trying to show you what it's like to build a website, and I'm trying to show you guys what it's like to deal with a client. It's a little hard though, especially without a second party. So when you're dealing with clients, you're going to kind of have to use all the knowledge from this class and last class on how to deal with new clients coming in. We had a couple of great questions on that stuff. So why it's proven to work. So pretty much every workplace I've talked about, or I had said that every workplace does this, and that's because it's proven to work. And why does it work? It's because when we're learning something new, we become engaged really quickly, especially if it's interesting to us. So a lot of us are taking this class because it's interesting to us, and right now, hopefully anyway, I have a lot of your guys' attention, and that's because you want to learn these new things, and you want to learn these website designing things, and you want to learn how to build a website through Elementor and WordPress, and that's kind of why it's proven to work, and that's why it does work, because everything you're learning right now you're engaged in and you're interested in, and those are kind of the two key things that you're going to want to look at for even your future, like your career, the career path you're going to go on. You want to kind of think about what makes you happy, what you enjoy working on. Like, I really enjoy working on making websites and kind of trying to find the creativity to build a new website. And so that's what I plan on doing in the future. But if this isn't really your thing, then it's just not your thing. And that's just how it is. I would recommend finding something that is your calling, is what a lot of people call it. Like something you're good at, and that's you're good at it because you want to learn about it, you want to know more about it, all that stuff. So when you're a new guy, you get introduced, you kind of get familiar, you maybe do 1 or 2 pages on a website, you do a couple of sections instead, maybe you do a header and a footer, maybe you build a menu, all that stuff. So you're comfortable with it, but when do you take on a lead role? That really is a good question. It's a comfort thing on your end. So if you're comfortable taking on a lead role, then I say do it. I would jump in, and I would see how you do. And if you don't do so great, ask for some help. So somebody that has already had leading experience in a leadership role, have them help you out and say like, hey man, I'm having trouble with this. Can you like help me out? Like what do I do here? I'm at a standstill. And those things come all the time, and I do it. I have to do it too sometimes because I don't know everything and you guys don't know everything. So when we have somebody with previous experience, they have previous experience, yes, but if it's just like an actual difficult thing to figure out, then it's just going to be another opinion and another helpful hand that's willing to help. So I would say take on a leadership role when you're comfortable building a website, or when you're comfortable doing anything that is going to anything that's going to have a leadership role. Be sure that you're comfortable before taking a leadership role. Don't think that you have to take a leadership role just because no one else will. That's a big thing, because what we can do in that case is the teacher should be the lead role there. They should take on some leadership, and they should do most of the time management that we talked about. They should probably be building the invoices and the quotes. So yeah, we kind of talked about all these points. You can definitely get help. That's a big thing. Even if we're a leader, we can ask for help. If we're students, we can ask for help. Everyone ever should be asking for help always. Not always, but we should always feel comfortable asking for help. But I mean, if nobody learns anything and we're all asking each other for help, then we're not getting anywhere. But what we're trying to do is help out other students to learn something that we had to learn. And honestly, how we learned it was probably through some help. You had somebody teaching it to you. You might have used the internet to help you out. But regardless, even if I type in a question on Google that's still asking for help. So instead of going to the internet first, I would go to one of your fellow students, because they're going to be able to tell you better how to do it. But if nobody knows the answer, then yeah, ask the internet. But myself as a student, I am able to convey information to you guys easier because I am a student and I kind of know how it is. Yeah, so that's everything on real world experience. So we have a personal playground. We talked about, I'm just going to go through this real quick. We got about 15 minutes left for today. So your personal playground is the student subdomain. That's your personal playground. We talked about it. We talked about how it's beneficial. But what we also need to talk about in the personal playground is how to utilize your time. So that's basically we talked about it in the courses, finding the bang for your buck. So we need to figure out how much we can get done in a short amount of time and what we need to learn versus maybe what we want to learn or what's not going to be beneficial to us. So what I'm teaching you right now through WordPress is going to be the stuff you need to know rather than stuff you're probably going to not need to know. And that's kind of part of the teaching process, is finding what needs to be taught and what doesn't need to be taught. So you guys as students need to, when somebody asks you for help, like we just talked about, if they're asking for you to help, then you should only be providing relevant information in kind of the simplest way possible so that they can understand how to do it like you know how to do it. Because it might be easier for you to say like something like just do it, like it's not that hard, but for other people it's a tough subject, and that's okay. Everything will come easier to some people than it will others, but when somebody asks you for help, be willing to help them out and allow them to utilize their time. Make sure you tell them what all they should only need to know. But if something comes up where they need to know something other than that, then you can even refer back to your personal playground and figure out how to do that new thing that you need to learn. So, is this public? No, this is not public. So, this being your personal playground and your subdomain, like, yes, if I type in specifically alex.grit9.com, which doesn't exist, we already talked about this, if that was my personal playground, then, while technically, if I did search that exact thing, it is public, but nobody's going to look at it, and nobody's going to base any judgment off of it, because nobody else is going to be visiting that subdomain but you. And that's kind of what I mean when I say that it's not public, is that while technically, yes, it's public, just nobody else is going to be seeing it, and that's why you should feel comfortable doing whatever you need to do in that personal subdomain. So the subdomain is going to allow you to try out new things, maybe test out different color combinations. You can tell I didn't really do that with this. I mean, we struggled with some of the with some of the colors yesterday, and I mean, that's all right. That's how it goes. I didn't test it out, and that's my fault. But I could have done that on a student subdomain, on my personal subdomain through our website that costs very little money, and the student subdomain costs very little money and all that stuff. So will it make me seem less a designer? So what I mean by this question is, when I'm doing my website and somebody goes and sees my student subdomain, will they think I'm a bad designer? That's all up to whoever sees the website, but again, they're not going to know that the website even exists. So there could be all sorts of subdomains. Like Google could have one that is a bunch of random letters .google.com, and I could type that in, and obviously it doesn't exist because it's crazy, but nobody's going to know that your student subdomain exists except you and your fellow students that are working on stuff. So, well, that's because they have their own student subdomain, and that's the only reason they know that you have one that exists and all that stuff. But that's why you should be able, or you should feel comfortable doing whatever in your personal playground in your student subdomain, you should definitely feel comfortable doing stuff in there, because people won't think of you less a designer because they won't even see it. They have access to it. They won't be seeing it. They won't be passing judgment on it's recognized as a student subdomain, and kind of this place where you don't necessarily mess around, but it's a place where you test out new ideas and new things to see if it looks good or if it looks bad. It's just a matter of interpretation. So that's kind of how to utilize your personal playground, is by only kind of doing the things that need to be known, and that all comes with experience. So ask someone else what you should know, and that's why you guys are taking this course, is because I know from experience what needs to be learned and what doesn't really need to be learned for our scenario. So I mentioned the guidelines, and you guys might have been interested in this, but YouTube and Googling. So YouTube and Google are probably the two of the most internationally recognized sources of information. People from all over the world post all sorts of things onto YouTube and Google, and so there's this thing that we do. It's called smart Googling. So when we're using Google, we need to ask Google questions, but there's times, I mentioned this last class, there's times where you don't necessarily know what to Google. So if I'm having an issue with my website and I don't even know what to search, then we're going to have to do our own. We talked about creativity earlier. We're going to have to think about our own perspective of things, and we have to do our own digging into, like, what do I even ask the internet? And a way to realize that if you don't answer, or if you didn't ask the right question, is if Google comes up with just a crazy answer you weren't even looking for, or if something doesn't work. That's a sign that you didn't ask the right question through Google, and that's okay. What you're going to have to do then is kind of find the actual reason behind what something's going wrong, and maybe optimize your search a little bit more, maybe get a little more specific with it. Another part of that is Google will often come up with YouTube channels or YouTube videos for the things you search. It happens all the time when you're searching about stuff with web development, because it's a lot easier to show in a video than in text for web development, unless it's like actual hard code. So what YouTube channels are trusted? It's a hard thing to figure out, but what I would recommend when you're searching YouTube for answers is either pick one of the top 3 recommended videos by Google, or go to a high class establishment YouTube channel. So like a university YouTube channel, or one of the things I like to do is Elementor even has a YouTube channel, and if I can't find an answer for something on Elementor, if I can't find it on Google, then I'll search Google for the Elementor YouTube video version, because I even showed you guys earlier the HostGator YouTube video, and that was by the HostGator official channel. So that's one of the trusted channels because they know how their stuff works, and what to do if it doesn't work. So if we stumble across something like that, then it might be hard to keep going at the same subject. But what I will say is I can promise you that there will almost always be an answer out there, no matter what it is you're looking for, whether it be on YouTube or Google or even a foreign source. By foreign, I just mean other than YouTube or Google, I guess. But if it doesn't work, try optimizing your search like we just talked about with smart Googling, or try to find out your own answer. Our natural response when we come across something like this is to ask Google, or to search YouTube, or try to find an answer online without trying to find our own solution. But if it doesn't work, then we are going to have to find our own solution, and we're going to have to try to mess around with things until we get it to work the way we want it to. So here are two popular places where we often go to find answers. There's Quora and Reddit, which are both places where users upload information without having any necessarily professional basis behind it. So, I mean, obviously there can be some Quora or Reddit comments where they're like, hey, I'm a psychologist that has been doing this for 20 years. Here's the answer. I see that all the time on specifically Instagram comments for some reason. But those can't be trusted if we don't have like a check mark beside their name, or if they don't have any sort of documentation as to why they are professional enough to give reasonable information on the subject. So typically, if it's an issue where it's a lot of trial and error, then I would maybe trust a Reddit post, maybe, because what people on Reddit do are basically, we talked about asking for help, wherever we talked about asking for help and that it's okay to ask for help, and that's kind of what Reddit does, is put a post out asking every single Reddit user interested in that topic. We ask all of them if they have any solution to this issue, and that's why Reddit can sometimes be trusted. But I would go to YouTube or Google first before I go to Reddit. And same with Quora. So Quora has a better job of analyzing which people are legit enough to talk about something. They often have check marks beside their name, so maybe I think it's a blue check mark or maybe a red check mark next to their name for Quora, which is basically the same idea as Reddit, just asking a bunch of people the answer to a question, and then some Quora user will answer it. And again, sometimes Quora can be trusted, but I would only really trust them if it's an issue that requires trial and error rather than just a solid answer. Again, only if they are really like certified to talk about that. So, also we talked about it's best to go to the source. It's best to go straight to it, and that's because they're gonna have the most information and they're gonna be the most knowledgeable about a certain subject. Is because they're gonna know most about it. So if I have a question about YouTube, I'm probably want to go to YouTube and watch a video on their own stuff, like maybe getting started making a YouTube video. I'm sure a bunch of people have videos on that stuff, but I think I would rather trust YouTube itself than to trust some random dude telling me about YouTube stuff. So when we talked about what to do if it doesn't work, we talked about trying like testing it out for ourselves, and we can do that all in our personal playground. So this is a spot where we really utilize if we can't find the answer for something specifically on the internet, as we go to our personal playground and we mess around with some stuff. Maybe we try different color schemes. Maybe we try different ways that the answer can be like come to, I guess, a different way we can find a solution to the problem is through our personal playground. So that's everything on YouTube and Googling. Mainly the big thing is smart Googling and asking the right question. So before we actually ask Google, ask yourself, is this the right question to even ask? And then that's going to be it. And then you'll ask Google, and if it doesn't come with an answer, I would recommend going to your personal playground and just kind of testing it out, see if you can make it to work. So that's all for me today. You can go ahead, pause this video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. So I just finished that one. I'm going to go grab some more water. I'd skip ahead basically until you see my face again, because I'm just going to hop right into it. Yeah. Be right back. I'm back. Yeah. So, you guys might be starting here, so this is a fun place to start. I'm just gonna yap for a minute because I just got done with the first hour. I've got my Starbucks here. I got it's the first time I ever tried it. It's a little energy boosted drink. So good morning to you guys. If you guys have does India have Starbucks? Let's see. This would be a fun way to start off class. Does India have Starbucks? Oh, look at that. Whoa. Where am I? Oh, wait. Oh, no. Oh, okay. You guys are safe. Don't worry. I found it. You guys got a Starbucks. It's okay. I don't feel bad anymore. I would have felt terrible if you guys just didn't have Starbucks. So go get you some Starbucks after this little promotion. Not sponsored, by the way. First time trying that drink. It's a boosted energy drink or something. Because I need energy for this. Okay, Unit 6, Billing and Future Planning. I'm going to go over what we did yesterday, which for me I talked about 3 minutes ago. We talked about training the team, which is kind of getting what happens when we get new kids involved in this. So we want to give them freedom, some psychological safety, so that's making them feel safe about giving opinions and trying to generate creativity. We want to give them space to do that, and what we also want to do is once they get comfortable enough to voice their opinion, we want to accept that, and we want to not make them feel bad, I guess. That's a common issue, is we often make kids feel bad about giving opinions, and that's directed to teachers and students because we all do it sometimes, which really sucks. Staying locked in, we talk about how to lock in, kind of eliminating all other sources of distractions and disruptions, and this can be through music or no music, or sometimes turning off the light helps. That helps me. It's gonna sound lame, but when I'm playing video games, it helps me to turn off the lights. It really helps me lock in, so I don't have any distractions around me. We talked about eustress, basically good stress for you. That's what happens when you get locked in, is you do a lot of work, and it can sometimes be stressful, but just remind yourself that it's good stress. Online courses, these are awesome. So there's Google ones, there's one on Coursera, there's some on there's some on Skillshare. Skillshare is what it's called. There's some there, and a lot of the good ones are going to cost money. I would recommend paying for them, but also look in to see what all it offers, because that can be a big factor. And also make sure it's something that you actually want to learn. Don't just learn it because you feel like you have to learn it. Make sure it's something that you want to learn. Real world experience. I don't really have to talk about this one. I mean, it's just real world experience is going to help you become more comfortable with everything that you do and everything that you plan on doing, I guess. Your personal playground, that's your student subdomain. That's where we just kind of we do whatever on this website. So we test out new things. If we have a question that we can't find on Google, if we have a question we can't find on Google, then we can use our personal playground to help us out there. So YouTube and Googling, we talked about smart Googling, and that's kind of asking the right questions and kind of knowing at least a little bit what we're talking about, which is why you guys have to learn this WordPress stuff, because if we're going to ask a question online about WordPress, we need to at least know what we're talking about in order to ask the question. So what YouTube channels are trusted? Usually you just want to go straight to the source of whatever company it is. Again, Elementor and HostGator, they have their own websites or they have their own YouTube channels explaining how to do things. And that's what I would recommend, or just anyone that Google recommends, because those probably do work. I'm not saying only use the Elementor YouTube channel when you're designing something in Elementor and you have an issue, but just ask or just see which one's going to be best and see which one actually comes up with a solution, because even if it's a waste of your time, you at least know that something doesn't work. We talked about Quora and Reddit, how maybe sometimes trust it, but typically don't. Just stay away from those and use YouTube and Google. I just talked about it, but use your personal playground if you can't find it. Can't find the information. So today we're going to talk about Unit 6. So this is billing and future planning. So with this unit, we kind of talked about a lot of this stuff. You see, we've got a couple reviews coming up here, and it's just kind of like what to do when you're future planning. So as a business, what we often get caught up in doing is we don't focus on realizing that there's a future without us. That's kind of us as humans, is we don't think about how there's going to be people like upcoming juniors and seniors, or upcoming sophomores or freshmen even, that are going to be taking this class that don't know anything about this subject. So that's part of the training, the team factor. But what we need to do first is how to actually get new students. So we need to learn how to actually train them. We need to start, get them initiated, and we also need to focus on the actual future. So where's our company going to go? How do we know when we should stop? So by that I mean we're going to go on summer vacation eventually, and we're not going to be able to work on these projects all the time. So we need to know like when we're going to stop. And also keeping up with the client. So we talked about interacting with the client during the website design process, how we should be reaching out to them every Friday about updates on their websites, or just key events that happen in their website. But what do we do after we're done? Do we still talk to the client? Like, what do we do? So that's what we're going to be talking about this unit today, all of today. You guys can see here, I'm at the end of the slideshow right there. So you guys are almost done. So this is the end of the third week here. So that's awesome. Good for you guys. So just real quick, next week what we're going to talk about, we're going to do some WordPress stuff. I think that's when we're going to be doing our services page. So that's going to be some fun stuff. So today for you guys, it's going to be the 17th, July 17th, right? And I have yet to decide on if we are doing a test or not, or at least some sort of exam, some sort of knowledge tester, or just what we're gonna do. So I'm not sure on that yet. So we might spend that last final day, so next Wednesday we might spend that going over everything we talked about this course, just kind of refreshing you guys, because as far as I'm aware, you guys are really good at absorbing information. I sent out a little survey, and most of you guys said that the course was moderate, but on the easier side of moderate, which is really nice to hear. That means you guys absorb this information really well, which means you guys are at least kind of interested, which is awesome, especially if you took the second course. So thank you guys for that. Thank you for staying engaged, and so I'll give you guys a final thank you next week, I think. So as of right now, I have no other scheduled classes with you guys. I'm going down a rabbit hole, I know. We're about 10 minutes in. We haven't even talked about anything. But as of right now, I don't have any more courses scheduled with you guys. So next week might be the last week I actually get to see you guys and get to teach you guys. But we'll talk about all that next week instead of morning on it now. So Invoice Ninja, we talked a bunch about this. Let's scroll. Invoice Ninja, we did an overview. We did a whole little walkthrough. That was about 30 minutes of our day on, I think it was our first Wednesday. Don't quote me, please. First First Wednesday, yeah. Yeah, our first Wednesday we talked about Invoice Ninja. That was about half of our class period then. So hopefully you guys are comfortable with that. One of the main things I just need you guys to know is doing a quote versus an invoice. So we do the quote beforehand, we give them a rough estimate of the price, and then at the end of the process, that's when we do the invoice and we give them the final price, and we say this was we gave you our original quote. If you asked for more, then we had to charge more. But if you didn't ask for more, then we just charged what we were going to charge you, and that's our original quote. And we talk about managing issues. So sometimes what happens is we send out a quote, they approve the quote without looking it over, and then they get the invoice and they think that it wasn't the schedule or the anticipated price, and they get this will be talked about separately. But they didn't see that the price was what the price was going to be, and then accuse us of changing the price. So what we're going to do there is in our Invoice Ninja, I don't have it pulled up right now. Let's see if I can. I don't know if I had access to Invoice. I don't think this is what it is. Yeah, no, it's not. Let's see if I can pull it up. But what we need to do here when nice. So look, we even have our Fresh Farmers client still here. So we had I thought we had made, did we make a quote? Let's see. Yeah. So we made our quote. So what we need to do as part of our quote when we're actually making the quote, we get this whole big thing. So part of it is we can do kind of like a custom field of the quote terms. So that's in our settings area. You guys can't read this at all, can you? On our left side we have our settings area at the bottom here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna make kind of like a if you approve this quote, then like you can't go back on it basically, and you're just gonna word that however you seem fit, and you're gonna use that every time. So I would highly recommend the teacher making this part. Like all this was all Mr. Suter. I had nothing to do with this, and that was our description for our web development hourly price. But yeah, so that's everything there. While we're here, I'm gonna delete this quote. we don't need this for actual Grit 9. Yeah, so that's oh my gosh. That's kind of what you do if you manage an issue, is you want to make sure that they know the price. You want to kind of have a little contract. So this is our quote is our contract, but there's nothing in it that says you can't go back on this contract. So that's what we're going to want to involve in our quote, is once you approve this, you can't the price can only go up. So like they can't try to kind of say, oh well, you guys didn't do that much work, I shouldn't be paying this much. Like we don't accept that from clients. So that's part of managing issues. So the main way we manage issues is future planning. We talked about that yesterday too. Is did we talk about that yesterday? No, that's what we're talking about today. We just need to always be thinking about the future, and this is part of thinking about the future. Is this is kind of short-term future, however, it still is the future. So we need to actually have a contract. We need to make sure that they know the price and all that stuff. So if the client is unhappy after the project, so we get to the end of the project and we send it over to him and he's not happy with it. So we talked about this some, but what we do is we're going to say, okay, so it's going to take us some more time to dedicate to this project, and we're going to have to charge you a little bit more for this. Are you okay with that? And what they're going to say is yes. They'll say yes or no, but if they say yes, then what we're going to want to do is we're going to keep documentation of when they were okay with us upping the price. So take a screenshot, save the email, anything that needs to be done for this case is going to be needed to be done, basically. So you need to save documentation of when they okayed the price, and that's done with our contract and our quote. We need to save evidence of that, and we also need to save evidence of when they said that we could up the price. Because what we as a student business do sometimes is we don't do enough satisfactory work for them. So they usually have high expectations for their website. They want their website to look insanely professional. Like the one we did for the homepage reference, that's a very professional website, and our websites just aren't going to look that good, and that's just the truth, unfortunately. But that's because they paid a like high-level web design team. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just kids, so we can only do so much. And if they're unhappy with the work, then we're gonna have to we're just gonna be like, well, we have confirmation here that you were okay with our work, and we provided everything exactly how it was advertised, and you accepted it. So it's unfortunately going to get a little like rough maybe when a client's unhappy and if they're unhappy with the price, but I would let the teacher handle that. Have the teacher be like, so you confirmed the price, but now you're kind of going back on us, and you're just not allowed to do that. And what we can do with a contract is, if they really insist on going back in the price, then we can kind of take this to a legal action, unfortunately, where we have evidence of them signing a contract, and we have evidence of them approving the price and approving what they were getting into when they signed a deal with us. A big thing is a client can be unhappy if we change the price in the middle of a contract. So this can be interpreted two different ways. So we talked about it a little bit just now, how if the price goes up, we need to communicate with them, and if they aren't willing to have the price raised, then that's that. Just leave it there. However, what I can mean by this is we had our invoice, right? I just deleted it, didn't I? But if we go to one of our products and we have these price things, and what can happen is we might decide we turn our web development hourly up to 40 hours, or 40 hours, $40 an hour. We cannot do that in the middle of a contract. That is absolutely not allowed, and honestly unacceptable. If we should definitely not be doing this if we're in the middle of a project. It should kind of be common sense, but definitely don't change the price of an hourly price in the middle of a contract, because it'll up their price that they didn't agree to, and that's on you then. So don't change the price without communicating, and don't be like a messed up person and change your hourly rate to $40 when you had it at $35 in the beginning of the contract, because then they can do legal action against you because you didn't inform them that you were raising your price to $40 an hour. So training new students. Give me a second. Training new students. So first, to train new students, we have to get new students, and we're going to do that by an interview process. We talked about interviewing the client, but so when we're starting our business, we need to make sure that we get quality kids, I guess, quality workers. And part of everything you do, you're probably going to get an interview. You're probably going to get tested of your knowledge and your skill, whether that means you make a better football team than a lesser football team, whether it means you get a job or not at a certain place. All these things are considered interviews, and basically tests of knowledge or skill in a certain realm. So the interview process, we're going to keep this fairly casual, okay? So it's not going to be one of those come dressed up, suit and tie. Be sure to have all your paperwork ready. Like it's not like that. So what we're gonna do in our interview process is get, I don't know, like 5 to 10 questions per student, and simply ask those questions. And what we're gonna do in the interview process is the students that are currently in the class are also going to listen in on the interview and give their opinion on the students. And the students often have a better insight on the teacher than the teacher does, and that's because we know the students better. So most of the time we've interacted with that student, and even though the student can seem really good to the teacher, they can either be a really bad person or maybe just a really bad worker. This has happened to me before. I've had to say that this person was not a good worker, and that they were not up to scale, I guess, to work at Grit 9, and they shouldn't really be a part of it because they just didn't do work very well. And it seems over there that a lot of you guys are interested in this stuff, so I had to include how many is too many. So we at Grit 9 have never had too many students. So right now, for our class of 2024 to 2025, our Grit 9 class consists of, I think, 6 students. So we only have 6 web designers in one company, which is really bad. So me, guy named Carter, guy named Tanner, who else do we have? Guy named Jair, interesting name. No way, we only have 4. But yeah, I mean, a guy named Pierce. So we got 5 guys. That's it. We got 5 guys doing web design stuff, and it's so that's we don't have too many numbers. So hopefully you guys do have too many numbers. So how many is too many, really? So it's going to depend on how many computers you guys have available to you. So if you only have so many computers, then I think that's going to be your max number. However, if we kind of have unlimited computers, I think the best case scenario there would be to take probably 30 students. I would take 30 students for the main web design and business class. So anyone that would like take a Grit 9 class, there would only be a max of like 30. That's what I would recommend for too many. What I would also recommend is keeping as many familiar faces around as possible. So so you could have like 30 juniors one year, but maybe like 15 of them aren't very good and they don't enjoy the class. You cannot fire them mid-year, because you can't just fire somebody while they're taking a class. You can't just tell somebody to leave the class. But what you can do is probably not have them join next year. So maybe take those 15 kids out, keep the other 15, and then bring in 15 new guys, but make sure they're younger. So a big problem that we have is we hire the eldest kids, so maybe we get like 30 seniors. What happens next year? Because then we don't have any leaders that have already led. That's going to be a big issue. And that's just something we have to think about. So what to do if we don't have numbers? So what's going to happen is, if you don't get enough members that are willing to join, you're going to want to advertise the company a little bit more. You're going to want to give some incentive to students. However, you're also going to want to make maybe take out the interview, because the interview can be intimidating to some kids. And so taking out the interview process can encourage more engagement in the class, and more kids are willing to join. But that's to do if you don't have enough numbers, not if you have too many. So if we don't have enough numbers, then maybe take out the interview process and try to advertise the company a little bit more and say that it's a really cool class, because I'm sure it is going to be a very cool class. So we talked about seniority. So students teach students. So I stole that from myself. I can't steal it from myself, but kind of the catchphrase I've come up for with Globe is students teach students. So I'm a student myself, but I'm still teaching you guys because I know the best way to relay information to everyone else, and I'm just a helpful guy, I guess. That sounded really egotistic. I'm sorry, but me being willing to help you guys understand this stuff is something that we should all be willing to have, at least to some degree. I get that you might not want to call to the U.S. and teach 50 kids. I get that. That's just kind of my thing. But we should at least be willing to help out a few students with things that they're struggling with. So when we keep around familiar faces, we're able to have a lot more students to teach new students, because we know our experience in learning those things as a student versus how you do as an adult, because as an adult you probably learned the things like maybe 20, 30 years ago, and that just doesn't work for the person nowadays that's just now learning it, and it can be hard to teach somebody when you don't have fresh knowledge. I'm not saying that you shouldn't listen to your teachers or something, because they're all very knowledgeable. Just sometimes it's called teaching style. Sometimes the teaching style doesn't work for you, and that's just because they don't relay the information as well as you would like to have it taught, I guess, if that makes sense. So that's why we want to keep around familiar students, because we know how they learned to do something versus how the teacher learned how to do something. So that's why you guys are kind of taking this class. So hopefully everything I'm teaching you guys now, I'm not saying you have to do this course word for word to all your future students, but if you just give them a rough guideline of how to use Elementor, then they'll be fine, and they'll be able to pick up on things along the way. And that's part of the interview process, is knowing if they're a good learner or not, because this class and a business even is it's basically catered to good learners. So if you're not a good learner, then this place isn't probably for you, and you're going to have to be transparent about that during the interview process. So if they are a good learner, then we're going to kind of jump in the deep end. So that's a saying we use, at least in the U.S., and it's when you kind of throw yourself into the deep end of a pool, and you usually it's referred to when there's a kid that's learning how to swim, and they don't know how to swim, but you just throw them in the deep end, and then they figure out how to swim. It's terrible and it's horrific, but and it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does, and that's why sometimes we just want to jump in the deep end. We want to go all the way in, and we want to completely another bad wording here, but we want to completely submerge ourselves in knowledge. So we want to figure out what all we need to learn and how to learn it as quickly as possible. So you guys right now are kind of jumping into the deep end with a little bit of shallow. So you can so you still have your head above the water, but you have all this new knowledge coming at you. But for a web design business, I would say jumping in the deep end is going into Elementor, having no prior knowledge, and just figuring out yourself. And this usually takes a little longer, which is why jumping in the deep end isn't usually recommended, and that's why I have students teach students, which is what I highly recommend, is have your students help out the other students. So that's all on training new students. Do we have any questions? Gotcha. I can't interact with you guys. I'm sorry. I mentioned... I'm sorry, that was a really bad joke. I mentioned that you guys can reach out to me at WhatsApp anytime. The only reason I can't do this is because I'm going to actually be busy during these times at band camp, and I have terrible Wi-Fi and just all that stuff. So right now I'm probably out marching, really. And I know it's 6:15 for you guys, but right now it'd be 9:15 p.m. for me. So I'm probably out there marching or going to bed, something like that. But yeah, so that's why I can't reach out to you guys. But if you guys send me a WhatsApp message with a question, I'd be more than happy to answer, because I do have some free time in the day. I just don't have enough free time to teach the class in person, unfortunately. So keeping up with the client. So when we're done with the client, we kind of just put them aside. So it's not necessarily that we don't care anymore. It's that we don't cater our time anymore because they already paid us and we already did all the work we could for them. So when we keep up with a client, they must reach out first. So the only reason they would reach out to us is if they had an issue. And a lot of times we can just help out from the kindness in our heart. And so that's, I mean, if we're willing to help them out, then we can help them out, especially if it's something small and it won't even take an hour. But if they're asking for a whole new edition of new pages and new parts of the website, then sorry, I think I'm tripping. If they're asking for completely new parts of the website, then we might have to charge them more, and we're just going to have to kind of talk to them about that and be real transparent about that, and tell them that we can only help so much. Dang, I already covered a lot of this. So they must reach out first via either email or phone call. And how to handle this, again, is if it's a real small thing, then we can probably help them out. But if not, I mean, at the end of the day, they did already pay us, right? So while they can still ask for even more that was out of their original price range, we can help out. Like maybe they want to change a picture or something. Like, we can go in real quick. I mean, I can do this right here, right now. Like, I can press this. I can go to background. I can change the picture right here, right now. That's how long it took for that. That's how, if we could change something small for them. But if they ask for a whole new page and more stuff that's going to take a little bit more time, then we're going to have a different search. Oh wait, that's something else. Okay, I got it now. I've confused myself with my own lesson. But if they're asking for more than what we can provide just in, I'd say if it takes you like 15 minutes, then I would help out. But if not, then probably you're going to want to charge them a little bit more. Again, especially if it's a new page, if it's going to be a new interface for the website, all this stuff. Or if it was a mistake on your end that they want you to fix, that's something that we have to adjust to. So if they review the website and said it all looked good, and then they paid us and then realized something was off, then me personally, I would do that fix for free, because that was our mess up, and I would do that no matter how much time it takes, unless they want new additions. So if we did something wrong, then it's our fault. But if we did something wrong because it was their fault, then I would probably charge some more. So as we do ask for more. How much is too much? We kind of said 15 minutes. If it's not that much, then probably don't do it. It's hard to define how much is too much, especially given the scope of some websites. I'd say if it's a page or more, probably charge some more. So keeping up with the client can be a different surcharge. So in our invoice, we can have a product now where they can kind of do a little, I wouldn't necessarily know what to call it, but sort of like a monthly fee that they would pay, where anything that goes wrong in their website or anything that they want us to add, we would be willing to add as long as they keep paying the monthly fee. So maybe for $10 a month, we can keep their website up to date. We can add new pages or something up to an extent, because at $10 a month, I mean, yeah, sure, it adds up, but it's only going to be $120 a year. And if we're charging $35 an hour for our original web development, then maybe try to say, like, hey, that's kind of out of the range of our of our continuing to help charge, but you're gonna have to all do that in the description of that. Like, you're gonna have to say we can only do so much until it becomes a completely new quote that you're gonna have to do all kinds of new things for. So I think that's everything on keeping up with the client. Make sure that they reach out first. We're not gonna keep in touch with them. Not like, hey Bob, how you doing? How's the website? How the kids? No, we're not gonna do that. So they reach out first. So now we talk about summer jobs. Give me a second. Okay. We're gonna talk about summer jobs. So during the summer we don't have school, right? Well, I mean, it's just certain semesters and certain months we just don't have school. And so for our company, do we offer summer jobs? That's going to be all up to the teacher. So in my personal opinion, I would not offer summer jobs. I don't think it's a great idea. I think summer is very beneficial for kids. I'm not saying that just because I enjoy free time and sleeping in until noon. I'm saying it really gets kind of the stress off of us after a long year of hard work, and it'll benefit us as students to take a break and to get that stress off of our plate, which as you can see I'm not doing. Which it's not going to turn out too great for me, but tough life, I guess. So summer jobs I typically wouldn't offer. However, I would include some exceptions. So we have our exceptions here. Guys, we're up to 2 viewers. We have 2 viewers right now. Can you guys believe that? I'm live streaming on YouTube. I have 2 viewers. This is the most I've ever had, by the way. Anyway. So our exceptions. So the exceptions, I would say, would be either things that we started in the class and were unable to finish, and if somebody was willing to do these things outside of class during the summer, that would be an exception. But if we are accepting new clients, we should not be doing that during the summer. I disapprove of that. I don't think we should be doing that, especially since we should be getting a break period during the summer. So another exception would be if you make some sort of contract and a student would be willing to do something outside of school hours, then that's that. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now is sort of an exception because I made a contract during the school year to do something during my summertime on my own hours. So what we do here, basically, you only want to do a summer job if the student is willing to do it and if it was a continuation of something that was started during the year. So this whole globe thing was started during the year, and I did the contract where I would teach during the school year and then during the summer as well. So that was part of my contract, and I mean that was just that basically. So that's the only reason I'm doing this here. We don't offer summer jobs at Grit 9 unless, again, it was a continuation and a student is willing. Because again, it's good to have a break period. It's good to have a summer. It's good to take a breather and take a load off your shoulders, take a load off your feet. So there's some saying with shoulders. I don't even know English. I mean, what am I doing here? So those are the exceptions there. So another question that gets brought up here is who gets the money. So I'll share kind of the finances involved in this class for you guys because a lot of teachers don't do that, and I don't like when they don't do that. I want to know where my money's going. So who gets the money in this case is a question we have to ask because I'm doing this on my own time now. So this isn't part of Grit 9, and I didn't initially have to do this. I just had a good time the first time around, and said, yeah, I'll stick around for this. Um, Basically, I mean, it wasn't that rude, obviously. I'm more than willing. Um, but who gets the money for these jobs? Um, so anything during the school year, I would say the money goes to the company. So while Globe is through Grit 9, it's still through Grit 9, you know? And so Grit 9 is going to end up getting the money that I did during the school year. However, since we're in the summertime, I get the money now since it's on my own time. So I negotiated with Mr. Suter, and we said that so those doing this during the school year, it was still in my own hours. It was still in my evenings. So technically, I could have taken all the money from that too. Um, but we kind of negotiated. We said I would take half the price, and then the company would take the other half, especially since it'll help with the company. And I'm a big guy or big guy. What do I even say there? I'm a big supporter of our company, and anything I do, I want the money to go to Grit 9. And that's just my personality, I guess, and my beliefs with business that I do. Because since we are a local company and since we're a small-ish company, I like putting all the money we can to Grit 9 because I think we do a lot of good work. Yeah, that's about it there. So I would say anything during the summer, and man, it's hard to explain. So when you do a continuation of a website, um, I would say the company still gets the money. So right now is one of the very few exceptions where I think the student should get the money. I don't even think I should be getting the money right. Well, maybe I think I should be getting the money, but I don't want the money, you know? If you feel me, you know what I'm saying? But it's just one of those things where it's like the company is still technically in charge of where the money should be going, but the money should still be going to the company because it originally started through the company. So if I were to be doing these teaching lessons during school hours, then I would say that the company definitely 100% should get the money. I think that I'm kind of getting into my opinions here. Really, that's why I'm talking like this. But I truly think that since Globe is a branch of Grit 9, anything that was done during the school year, the money should go to Grit 9. And again, that's because that Grit 9 owns Globe. But during the summertime, I think that 50% should go to Grit 9, and I think 50% should go to me because it was my own time, but Grit 9 still owns my company or my organization, Globe. Which, by the way, I'm trying to make into kind of like a big thing. I have a couple extra minutes here to talk today. So I'm trying to turn Globe into something kind of really international and try to reach out to some schools in Europe and stuff. And so again, I think that anything that's done during the school year should really go to Grit 9, and I don't think the student should get any money from those hours they put into this because the Grit 9 still owns the company. So whatever we sorry, I stuttered. We've never had something like Globe. Sorry, I actually do have a stuttering issue. It gets bad when I get nervous, honestly. We've never had something like Globe. We've never had like an organization branch off of Grit 9. So this is all new to us. So all this stuff is honestly just really new, and we don't quite know how to operate yet. We don't know where money should be going. But what can kind of help guide us is kind of legalities. So everything I just mentioned has been thought about by the government, at least the United States government anyway. the teacher would have to look into the legalities through the Indian government on what is allowed here, because if a company owns, I turned British. If a company owns an organization, then most times both parts would get some money, like maybe 30% goes to the company that owns the organization. But in this case, it's a small business, so while technically we should be following all the rules, there's still a few we can bend because we're not really harming anybody by what we're doing, especially since it's our money and nobody's having issues with our money. So that's another thing. If your teacher just doesn't care where the money goes, then we don't have to worry about legalities. If the client cares, though, then you have to worry about legalities because then they can have an issue on where the money goes, and then it just becomes a big deal. But it's best for everybody if we just don't worry about too much legalities, other than kind of like our invoice or our quote. Like you said you're gonna pay this much, and you didn't pay that much, so like then we have to worry about finding a legal team, going to a judge, doing all this crap. So personally, I find it better to just be familiar with the legalities of whether the student should keep the money or not, because technically, so as a student-run business, you guys can still hear me. Yeah, okay. So I'm just trying to think here. This is my thinking pose. So as a student-run business, the students aren't allowed to get any money. So whenever Grit 9 gets money, it's considered a donation. And that's because we're like, a company is allowed to happen, but a company hardly ever happens, so there's hardly any rules on it. So what our school has come up with is every single thing we create, all the money is considered a donation. So like, it would be like if you had a class where you did woodworking and you would give away those woodworkings. So technically, we're giving our stuff away for free, but in return, we accept a donation. So it's all just kind of this formal agreement on the technicalities of you're technically donating me something, but in return, I have to donate some money. So it's all about legalities, and just become familiar with these. Specifically, the teacher. The teacher mainly should be becoming familiar with the legalities. And as a student of an employee of a school-run company, so a student-run business, I'm not allowed to accept money. But since we're out of school hours, this isn't through the school anymore. This is through my own time and my investment in this company and organization called Globe. So now it's my own time, it's my own stuff. So now I'm allowed to receive the money rather than Grit 9, because Grit 9 isn't allowed to take the donation anymore because it's no longer in school hours, and then would be considered illegal activity because I was doing schoolwork outside of school hours for money for the school. If that makes sense, I mean, hopefully that makes sense for you guys. That's kind of the legalities. Basically, that's at least in the United States. If not, I just ranted to you. I just ranted to you guys for about 15 minutes. It was probably 5 minutes. I don't know how long it was. But those are legalities in the United States, and that is what I would take into consideration when considering summer jobs and exceptions for summer jobs. But if your school kind of does its own company and is kind of like a year-round thing, then you don't have to worry about legalities at all. Then it becomes something that the students sign up for a year, and that's just that. Okay, we're wrapping up here. We got about 9-10 minutes. So this is knowing when to stop taking clients. So let me get a drink first. Sorry. A little ASMR action. So knowing when to stop taking clients. So knowing when to stop taking clients is kind of a hard thing to do, but we have to like have a set deadline. So we need to know when we are going to stop taking clients. So there are some clients that are going to be really big projects, and if they are willing to take a break here, that's our second point here. If they're willing to wait the summer and then have us start picking up the project again the next summer, or the next fall, or whenever the next school month starts, if they're okay with taking that break, then we can continue doing their project and we can pick up their project. But if they want the project done like here and now, then we're gonna have to tell them that they should come back. We talked about how sometimes we have to just tell them to come back because we can't do it right now, or we have to refer them to somebody else. But have a set deadline. So me personally, I would have a set deadline of about 2 weeks before the end of school, 2 to 3 weeks before the end of school. And during those 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, you finish up all the projects that we have started, and we don't accept any new clients. And the reason for this is because we don't want to put ourselves in a hole where we have 5 clients come to us during the summer. I find highly unlikely, but if we have a bunch of clients come to us during the summer and we accept them during those last 2 or 3 weeks of school, then we're totally screwed over the summer, and we're going to have a lot of clients that are angry. And also, with that, since we didn't communicate that to them, and that wasn't part of the initial discussed plan, we're going to have to end up discounting them because we did our job poorly. Kind of this summer thing is all going to have to be about communication. So if you sign a new client and they're okay with you taking a break, you're going to have to say, okay, this is when school starts. This is the first day of school, so we're going to start it then, our last day of school. Or so you would start with, if we accept a client within the last 2 weeks, you would say this is our last day, and then we're going to take a break for about 3 months, and then this is our first day of school. So we will not be working on your project anytime during then. And sorry. And that's that. So that's kind of, we have to communicate with the client. That's kind of the big thing here, is actually letting them know that we will be taking a break on their project if it comes close to summertime. And if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel for some projects after during the 2 weeks at the end, you might want to message the client and be like, hey, unfortunately we weren't able to get this done this year. Is it all right if we come back next year and do it? If they say no, then you might want to look into kind of the continuation of a project. So while the money still would all go to the school, you would just have a student that would hopefully be willing to work on this outside of school during the summertime. But an alternative solution for this would be, I completely lost my train of thought. I thought of an alternative and then I lost it. An alternative of this would be, you would discount the price and then give them everything you have for the website. So it'd be like, okay, so this is everything we were able to do in the time frame that we had. Sorry again about not being able to finish it. We reduced your price by 30%, or we took off all the hours that we thought we were going to have that we didn't end up having. All that stuff. So that's kind of everything. So the benefits and downfalls of taking breaks. So a benefit of taking a break on a website would be you would come back fresh next year with some new ideas for the website. So whether we like to admit it or not, we think about things that we don't intend to think about basically during the summertime. Like, I don't want to think about websites during the summertime, but I end up thinking about them anyway. And sometimes you come up with some cool ideas during the summer for websites. And what I would do is write that down immediately. So I have Mr. Suter's school email, and you guys all have school emails and stuff. So message the teacher in charge and be like, "Hey, this is a cool idea that I came up with. Just thinking about this thing." And they might not respond back until next school year, but regardless, it was an idea you had over the summer, and it's still saved basically, because if we just try to remember it, then we might not remember it, and that's just what that is. So that can be a benefit of a break. Another benefit of a break would be that you would actually get some time to reassess the situation. So maybe take a step back. We've talked about kind of the benefits of taking breaks, as it'll relax our brains and take a load off our feet. It'll relieve some stress. Even though it could have been stress, it's still a little bit of stress. However, some downfalls of breaks would be that you just don't get work done, and I mean that's just what it is. You don't get work done sometimes, and it's unfortunate, but that's just going to be the case sometimes. We just don't get work done, but we have to communicate that with the client first. So make sure that whenever your deadline does start, that you communicate that with any incoming clients or any clients that you already have. You're going to want to communicate it with them and be like, "Hey, our summer break's coming up. Are you okay if we just drop this for a bit and pick it back up during next year? Or would you rather us kind of give you it for a discounted price, not finished?" Both are completely acceptable options. But another downfall to a break would be that you forget everything you're working on. So sometimes you intend to not think about something, and then you end up not thinking about it. And you come back next school year, and you completely forget everything you were working on about this project. You forget how to use WordPress even. You forget how to use Elementor, and it all becomes foreign to you again. Which unfortunately can happen. So I would recommend is at least think about it a little bit, stay on the same kind of train, what do they call it? I don't even know. Train of thought. I just lost mine. Keep on the same train of thought. Keep thinking about the same stuff that you were. Think about the same layout you had. Maybe even visit the website once or twice during the summer just so you can see what it looks like, which will hopefully remind your brain. And another downfall of a break can be that if we have all incoming new students next year, so that might be like whatever that day might be our first day, but it still might it could still affect the process that we actually work on the website, because we had somebody dedicated to working on the website, and now they're gone. They graduated. So now we have to worry about teaching a new student all this new stuff. And so based on my clock, I'm out of time. I mean, hopefully it should be the same on your guys' clock. If not, it's like 3 or 5 minutes, give or take. But that's all of Unit 6 we had there. We had Invoice Ninja Review. We had training new students, keeping up with clients, summer jobs, and knowing when to stop taking clients. And just knowing when to stop with clients. So, yeah, all that stuff. So, that's all from me. I will see you guys next week. I will have just returned from band camp. Maybe I'll tell you guys how it was if we have a minute. But regardless, I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye. Now I have to stop streaming. Stop streaming.